Picture this with me. You walk onto a movie set, but hold on, something's different. Instead of the usual jumble of plywood and scaffolding, you're face-to-face with this massive, curved LED screen.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's like stepping right into another dimension, a video game come to life. And that right there is the allure of virtual production.
Definitely a game changer for the film industry, and it goes way beyond just some flashy visuals. We're not just talking about ditching green screens here. This is about a complete transformation in how movies are made, from pre-production all the way to the final cut.
Absolutely. This isn't a simple swap of one tool for another. We're talking a whole new approach. And to really grasp how monumental this shift is, we're going deep, diving into my look of awe. Think of it as your crash course on virtual production, or VP for short.
It's a solid source because it lays everything out, the incredible potential of VP, but also those real-world challenges that come along with this tech.
Which is what we're all about. No sugarcoating here.
Yeah.
So let's start with the tangible stuff. What does VP actually do in a practical sense? The article breaks it down into 5 key areas, beginning with set construction. Remember those gigantic hand-built sets they used to create?
Back in the day, it was all about physical scale, which meant huge amounts of resources and time. Think about classics like Cleopatra or the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Those sets were practically characters themselves.
And man, were they expensive. But with VP, those massive physical sets are starting to fade into the background. The source points to The Mandalorian as a prime example. They created those expansive, otherworldly landscapes and intricate alien cities, all digitally. And let's be honest, it looked incredible.
Totally. And that's where the real impact of VP starts to hit you. By going digital, filmmakers aren't boxed in by the limits of physical construction anymore. Want a scene set on a speeding train across the moon? No problem.
Or what about deep underwater, like an Avatar, The Way of Water, which the article also mentions. And speaking of water, VP doesn't just stop at sets, it's changing the game for practical effects too. Think back to those storms at sea in 1899. How real did those feel?
All thanks to VP. In the past, filmmakers were at the mercy of the elements, depending on costly rain machines and a ton of post-production magic. But VP brings those elements right onto the set, virtually, giving directors this insane level of control that was just impossible before.
Like having a direct line to Mother Nature and ordering up those perfect conditions.
Right.
And if you thought location scouting was a pain before, buckle up. It might just become a thing of the past.
You got that right. VP basically waves goodbye to the limitations of traditional location scouting. Need a dense jungle in the dead of winter, a bustling city without all the permits and crowds. VP makes it happen.
Imagine the entire world, literally at your fingertips. They even talk about The Lion King, using VP to recreate the vast African savanna. And visually, it was stunning. And that's where things get really cool to me, the way VP handles lighting.
Right.
It's something most people watching probably don't even pick up on, but it can make or break a scene, don't you think?
Oh, totally. Lighting sets the mood, creates depth, guides your eye. And VP puts this, unparalleled level of control right in the filmmaker's hands.
The article brings up The Mandalorian again, talking about how they used LED screens to basically mimic dynamic lighting that matched perfectly with those incredible virtual backgrounds they created.
It adds so much to the realism. And what's really interesting is that this isn't even a brand new thing. Gravity, which remember came out way back in 2013, was actually a pioneer in using LED screens for those super precise, intricate lighting effects.
Wow, I had no idea they were already doing that back then.
Yeah.
It really goes to show how this technology has been evolving behind the scenes. And speaking of things we don't often consider, what about those background extras?
Right.
You know, those crowds of people that make a scene come alive, bustling.
Yeah, that's another place where VP really shines. Creating digital extras, and not only takes care of all those logistical headaches, but also blows open those creative doors. Because let's be real, those massive crowd scenes in older movies, they don't always age that well.
Ugh, tell me about it. I've seen some where it's like more a gathering of cardboard cutouts than actual people.
Yeah. With VP, you have these digital extras that move naturally, react to what's going on in the scene, and bonus, they never need a bathroom break. The article calls out 1899 again, mentioning how they use these digital extras to great effect, especially on the ship.
It adds a layer of detail, a realism,
Yeah.
that would be tough, not to mention crazy expensive, to achieve the old way. Okay, so we've covered what VP can do. Let's dig into why this matters, because it's not just about some fancy tech, right? It's how this tech actually transforms the game of filmmaking.
100%. This isn't about making things look pretty. It's about the real world effects and those creative avenues it clears the way for. And one of the biggest impacts, which the source gets into, is how cost effective VP can be.
And wouldn't you know, The Mandalorian is a perfect example of this. Instead of actually building those elaborate sets and flying a whole film crew out to some desert planet, they created practically everything virtually, all on a soundstage.
Think about the savings there. You're not just slashing costs on materials, labor for those sets, but travel, accommodation, all those logistical nightmares.
Not to mention how much creative flexibility you gain. If you don't vibe with a set design, change it with a few clicks.
Exactly. And that leads right into the next advantage, the sheer creative freedom VP offers. It's like going from a sandbox to having a whole universe at your fingertips.
No kidding. We talked about Avatar, The Way of Water, before, and those crazy complex and stunning underwater scenes. Try and do that with traditional filmmaking, especially on that kind of scale. Logistical and budgetary nightmare.
It really blows your mind when you think about it. VP lets filmmakers bring their visions to life in ways that just weren't possible. And even beyond what you can create, there's how you can create it. The article really emphasizes this whole idea of making real-time adjustments, calling it a game changer for directors.
So no more hanging around for hours while the crew adjusts lighting or moves some prop a few inches to the left.
Exactly. Picture this. You're on set, cameras are rolling, and suddenly the director wants a different sunset. Or a building in the background to be a totally different color. With VP, those changes. Instant. No more waiting for post-production.
That must feel incredible as a director, having that immediate control over the visuals.
Totally. It doesn't just streamline the whole filmmaking process, it opens up this space for more spontaneity, experimentation right there on set.
And we're back, diving deep into the world of virtual production. We were talking about how this tech is shaking things up for directors. But let's not forget about another biggie: control.
Oh yeah, for sure. VP gives these filmmakers this insane level of control over every single thing in the environment, something you just couldn't even dream of with traditional filmmaking. You want a specific kind of rain, like a drizzle, a downpour, no sweat, need the wind blowing in from the east at 5 miles an hour. Done.
It's like they handed filmmakers the remote control from Mother Nature. The article uses the Batman as a great example. They talk about how they use VP to create those super dark, moody scenes, even down to controlling the rain perfectly. It's like they bottled up Gotham City and brought it into the studio.
That level of precision, that control, it's a game changer, especially for films that really bank on atmosphere and mood. But even with all this amazing stuff, VP's not perfect. The article calls this section the catch, and I've got to say, pretty fitting.
There's always a flip side, right? What are some of these downsides to VP then?
Well, one thing is, this tech doesn't come cheap. Getting set up with all the VP gear and the experts to run it all, it's a serious investment. The source mentions The Mandalorian again, saying that initial setup cost a pretty penny.
They do point out, though, that the cost of VP is coming down as the technology gets more, accessible, which is good news.
Definitely. Like with anything new, those early adopters, they pay a premium. But as VP gets more, mature, more widely used, we'll probably see those costs drop. It'll be more realistic for smaller productions, independent filmmakers.
That's encouraging for the future of film. But beyond just the money, what about the actual process of working with VP? It seems insanely complex.
It's definitely a whole different ballgame, skill set-wise. The article talks about the technical hurdles involved, how filmmakers and crews, they need to adapt to this new way of working. They bring up Alita, Battle Angel, as an example, a film that ran into a few of these technical bumps.
The good reminder that while VP has this huge potential, it's still, at its core, about technology. And technology can be, unpredictable.
Exactly. And when you're talking productions costing millions, those glitches, those technical hiccups, they translate into big delays, budget blowouts, you name it.
It makes you appreciate the expertise of those behind-the-scenes wizards even more. But it's not all about the tech, is it? There's the human element, too. The article mentions how some actors actually find it tough to work with VP because there's no physical set.
Right.
I mean, that makes sense. It must be so strange to try and act out a scene when you're basically surrounded by LED screens.
It's a total mind trip. Imagine having to deliver this powerful emotional performance while staring at a green screen or reacting to a creature that isn't even there. They mention Avatar as an example, saying those actors were essentially acting in this digital void for big chunks of filming.
That must take another level of focus, of imagination from those actors.
Oh, absolutely. It really highlights this fascinating and potentially tricky aspect of VP, this disconnect from the physical world.
Makes you wonder, if everything goes virtual, does it change how we connect with stories? On an emotional level, even. Is there something about a real-world set, that tangibility, that makes the viewing experience better? Deeper, maybe?
Now, that is the question, isn't it? And I think it's one we'll be grappling with as this VP technology keeps evolving. Because it's not just a technical shift we're talking about. It goes deeper than that, almost philosophical.
It really does make you think about the future of film, how we tell stories. So as VP keeps developing, where does this leave the film industry? What's next?
Well, I think it's safe to say VP is here to stay, and it's going to keep revolutionizing the way we experience movies. It just blows open the doors creatively, letting filmmakers bring their visions to life like never before.
It's exciting to think about what they'll come up with.
And while VP has its challenges, those challenges also mean opportunities. Opportunities to innovate, to adapt, to push the art of filmmaking further than ever.
Well said. Feels like we're on the edge of something big, a whole new era of cinematic storytelling. And it'll be amazing to see how VP shapes that future.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, we'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you think VP will change how we watch movies, experience stories in the years to come? Will it transport us to new worlds? Blur the lines between reality and fantasy even further? Join the conversation. Our deep dive might be over for now, but the conversation is just getting started.